Greetings. Let's continue on with our ambassador notes. Today we are on number 19. It's amazing we've produced so much material over the last years. Today I want to talk a little bit about Sufi Islam. A lot of people have heard that Sufi Islam is a very tolerant, welcoming, broad tradition within Islam, and that is true. Sufi Islam does focus on getting the individual believer to achieve a unity with Allah, to experience the being of Allah. This in regular Islam, both Sunni and Shia, is not normal. In the same way that most Christians would not say, "Oh, I have achieved a unity with God in my soul." This is something even if a Christian said, he would be like, "This is a little bit, a little bit odd." But this is indeed what Sufi Islam is trying to do. They oftentimes live in a community together. Many of them are unmarried. So there is something of an analogy to some of the monastic orders from like within the Catholic Church, for example. They are well known for their tolerance, but because of this, and because they tend to have a very broad way of looking at salvation, they tend to think, well, yeah, Christians, you can know Allah in your way, and Jews, you can know Allah in your own way. That having been said, we shouldn't expect for Sufi Islam to somehow change the laws of different countries. And throughout the entire world, not more than 10% of Muslims would identify themselves as Sufi Islam. This is just not enough Muslims to really have a long-term, lasting, powerful effect on laws, which is unfortunate, but that is the way it is. Indeed, many Orthodox Muslims, whether Sunni or Shia, are quite critical of the Sufi Muslims. The idea of achieving unity or experiencing Allah directly is considered heterodox or even heretical by many Muslims. They have mystical practices. So if the most famous example of this, and you can find this on YouTube or whatever, just put in whirling dervishes. This is a Sufi tradition. People whirl around and they continue to recite a mantra. It's called the dhikr. Which would be maybe the names of Allah in Islam, or a verse from the Quran, or the Shahada, or something along those lines. So that's just one form. Sufi Islam is also well known for having a really profound and important tradition in poetry. So if you've ever heard of a guy named Rumi, R-U-M-I, he is a very well-known Sufi Muslim poet. Now, Sufi Islam, we're not sure exactly where the word comes from. We think it might come from the word suf, which is Arabic for wool. And we're not really sure about the origins historically of how Sufi Islam was born. One of the main theories, and this is a theory, this is a hypothesis, this is not something that we're sure, like historically sure of, is that really it was an attempt to imitate some of the monastic Christianity that the early Muslims saw around them. And in the same way that Christians had mystics and Jews had mystics who said that they had experienced the being of God, some Muslims said, well, we can do the same thing. So we think that might be where Sufi Islam came from. But again, I want to just clarify that Sufi Islam is not something other than Shia or Sunni Islam. Sufi Islam is a particular way of being Shia or Sunni. And the last thing I want to say is, well, where are the Sufi Muslims? Well, any place that you find Islam in the world, you can find Sufi Muslims. Though I would say that in more strict countries like Saudi Arabia, for example, I think that legally speaking, Sufi practices are discouraged, and maybe some of them are even prohibited. One of the great Sufi masters of centuries ago said, "I am Allah." He felt that he had achieved unity with Allah, and for his pains and for saying this, or he said, "I am the truth," which is one of the names of Allah. He was executed for heresy. So I mean, just to give you an example that not all Sufi Islam is really welcomed by other Muslims. But you'll find substantial Sufi communities in places like Iran, Turkey, Pakistan, parts of India, But again, any place that you find Islam in the world, you will be able to find some Sufi communities, or at least individuals. So that's our quick introduction to Sufi Islam. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section and I will answer them. And as always, thank you for being an ambassador. If you have any topics or questions you want me to address in the coming months, let me know. I am here to make sure that you have the resources so that you can be an effective, kind, compassionate, and informed witness as you share your Christian faith with your Muslim friends and neighbors. Thank you.